of them. In 1953, the graduates of Yale University were studied and analyzed. And they asked the questions about goals. And here's what they discovered. They discovered that only 3% of the seniors at Yale University had actually taken the necessary steps as far as setting those goals are concerned. Namely, they had identified what they wanted and had written them down. Now, to go along with that, they had listed the benefits. Now, let me emphasize something very important. The most significant part of setting a goal is to identify the benefits. You know, a lot of times an individual might have a goal, and that goal might be, well, I'm going to lose 35 pounds. And then you know what they talk about? Oh, I'm going to have to give up this and give up that and give up the other. I'm going to have to quit this and quit that. I'm going to have to surrender, sacrifice. And you can almost see them go through the halo adjusting process. Poor little me. They have a series of pity parties when they start setting their goals. They think of the price they've got to pay instead of the benefits which are coming their way. Now, for salespeople and marketing people, let me give you a fact of life. If all you talked about was price when you're trying to make a sale, I can guarantee you your sales would have a dramatic decline. What we emphasize are the benefits. The most important step in the goal-setting program is to identify those benefits. What is in it for me? Then the third thing that these seniors at Yale did, the 3%, they identified the obstacles. James Baldwin was absolutely right when he said, confronting a problem does not always bring a solution. But until you confront the problem, there can be no solution. The reality is something stands between you and your goal. If that were not true, you would already be there. You've got to spell it out. What are the obstacles? That's what the 3% did. And then the fourth step is you've got to identify what you need to know in order to get there. There's some missing information that you got to have. What is it that I need to know in order to get there? And then the fifth thing that they did, they identified the people, the groups, and the organizations they needed to work with in order to get there. If you're going to accomplish anything of any significance, it requires other people working with you. As a simple example, the giant Belgian horse on its own can pull 8,000 pounds. If you hook him up with another giant Belgian horse, together they can pull 18,000 pounds. But if you send them to training school and teach them to pull in harmony, then the team can pull in excess of 25,000 pounds. Working together, teamwork. Who are the groups, the people, the organizations I need to work with? And then obviously the next step has got to be a specific game plan, a plan of action, if you will. Can you imagine two coaches on opposite teams, whether they're coaching soccer or football or whatever, and here they're playing for the world's championship? And the day before the game, they call the team together and say, well, now, you know, we got a pretty tough opponent tomorrow. We better figure out what we are going to do. And, of course, we kind of smile at that and say, that's insane. I agree with you. They organize, they plan, they develop a plan of action for a game. I'm talking to you about a plan for life, a balanced plan, so that you win in every area of life. Now, 3% of these Yale seniors did that, and then they had taken the seventh step, too. They had established the date when they expected to be there. If You want to be the chairman of the board. If you want to win at home, if you want to win personally, if you want to win financially, if you want to have all of the winning aspect, it really takes a goals program. Now, interestingly enough, 10% of those graduating seniors from Yale University had taken about 5 of the steps, but the overwhelming majority, outside of knowing they wanted to be a doctor or a professor or an attorney, they really had no solid goals program. 20 years later, they did a study in the 2 areas which they could measure, namely career and financial. And the 3% who had taken all of the steps had literally accomplished more than the other 97% combined. It's been said often, people don't plan to fail, but they do fail to plan. I bet that's not the first time anybody who will ever view this unit has ever heard that. It's old, but let me tell you why it's old. It's old because it's true. If it weren't true, it wouldn't be old, it'd be dead. I mean, it would have long outlived its usefulness. You absolutely must have those goals. Now, for many people in this world of ours, the name Howard Hill will have no significance. He was raised over in Alabama. Howard Hill was an archer. He was a good one. He won 286 consecutive archery tournaments. As a matter of fact, he was never beaten in competition. It finally reached the point where he retired because the best bowmen in the world would not compete because they did not want to compete for second place. He killed a bull elephant with a bow and arrow, a Bengal tiger with a bow and arrow, a Cape buffalo with a bow and arrow. He killed an 18-foot shark under 15 feet of water. Or was it a 15-foot shark under 18 feet of water? It was one. All I know, it was a big one, and he was way down there. When I was a youngster, I've seen newsreels of Howard Hill where from 50 feet he would literally split the bullseye. I mean, perfectly in the center. Then he would take his next arrow and split the first one. A remarkable demonstration of skill. Now, I've never professionally shot the bow and arrow, but I am an instructor extraordinaire. That just means I'm good, real good. As a matter of fact, I'm so good as an instructor that I could spend 20 minutes with you personally, and regardless of what part of the world you live in, provided your eyesight is good and your health is good, at the end of 20 minutes, I would have you hitting the bullseye more consistently than Howard Hill could have hit it the best day he ever had as a bowman. Provided, of course, we had first blindfolded Howard Hill and turn him around a few times so he'd have no idea as to where he was. And you kind of sit there thinking, Ziegler, you dirty dog. Of course, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How on earth, Ziegler, you know we could beat him then. How on earth could a person possibly hit a target he could not even see? You know, that's a good question. Let me give you one even better. How can you hit a target you do not even have? Have you got yours? I mean, in every phase of your life? Have you identified it and written it down? Have you specifically listed the benefits which are yours? Have you identified the obstacles which you have to overcome in order to get there? Have you put together the information you need in order to make this plan work? Have you identified the people, the groups, the organizations you need to work with in order for it to happen? Have you laid out a carefully designed game plan? Something that you cannot do in 5 minutes or in many cases in 5 hours. But have you developed a specific plan of action? Now, you know what's fascinating? Those Yale seniors, in most cases, had planned all of their life to go to Yale. Then they get there, that goal is accomplished, and they don't make the goals and the plans beyond that point. You absolutely must have the goal. You got to establish those dates. When you put all of those things together, then it's amazing how much more time you will have to work on the things that are important. It's amazing the amount of time that you will be able to save because you will be aimed at things which are important. Now, why is that important? I cannot say for the rest of the world, but in America, over 80% of all of the college graduates, 10 years after they've graduated, are working in a field which is totally unrelated to what they majored in when they were in college. What an incredible waste of time. How much further would they have been along the way had they taken those steps initially and worked through these exercises to determine literally where they were? Now, in order to wrap this unit up, to kind of pull it together, let me simply say that the first thing we've got to do is we've got to eliminate fear. Now that's easy to say, but how do you eliminate fear? You look at the alternatives. When fear deals with us, think of all the things we lose as versus when we rationalize, much as we talked about the airplane trip, you understand. There's a certain amount of danger for the plane if it leaves the ground, but it's more danger if it stays on the ground. There's a certain danger in setting goals because you might not reach them. But think of the greater danger if you don't set those goals. Rationalize it. Look at it realistically. Then buy the idea that I've been selling that you must have those goals. Then obviously you take the 7 steps that we have emphasized twice already in this unit. The steps absolutely are critical, ladies and gentlemen. You need to take them in order to set the goals which are so important to have in your life. Yes, goals are enormously important. The fourth step, the fourth thing we need to do is we need to really listen carefully to the Sir Edmund Hillary story. The first time Sir Edmund Hillary attempted to scale Mount Everest, he did not make it. As a matter of fact, he left, I believe it was 3 of his mountain climbers dead on the mountainside. But because his effort had been so enormous, the English government awarded him its highest honor. They called him before the Parliament. And as he walked in, to a person, everybody there rose and gave him a prolonged standing ovation. As Sir Edmund Hillary moved to the front of the room, there was a giant picture behind where he was to be standing, and the picture was that of the peak of Mount Everest. It was an awesome picture. Sir Edmund Hillary largely ignored the crowd, ignored the applause. He ignored everything that was being said by the people in the audience. He literally stood directly in front of that picture for a moment or two, and then he shook his fist at Mount Everest. And he said, "You won this time, but you're as big as you're ever going to get. I'm still growing." History tells us he made it the next go-round. Your history will record that if you persist in your goals that you're now going to set, that you'll win if you pursue those goals. By those ideas that we've been sharing, take these steps, because if you do, I'll close by saying I'll see you. And yes, I really do mean you at the top.